Good evening and welcome. It is All for United. Yes, that's right. I'm on double duty. I've just spent ages with Connor over on WFC and now I'm back here, but still with the exact same backdrop. So, yes, it does very much look how it feels. I feel very much like in jail at this moment in time, but we move, we get on with it. It's what it is. We've assembled, as ever, a star-studded panel ready for the discussion of our lives as we discuss this huge game, and it is huge for me, I think, anyway, in this game against Bournemouth, a side that have already beaten us once this season and who are looking to do quite an impressive double from their point of view. But in their way, apart from just Manchester United, are, of course, our back line, our wall of defence, if you will, with an actual wall in it. One of them being Andrew. How the devil are you, sir? Lovely to have you here. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm all good. So looking forward to the game tomorrow and also the women's on Sunday as well. So good weekend of football ahead. So hopefully we're seeing 2 wins out of it.
Lovely. Good to have you here. And of course, just below me, we have season ticket holder number 2, Mr. John Neville, who's decided not to go to the pub tonight and is actually here with us, which is wonderful. Hard man to get pinned down, but we've got him tonight. How are you, sir?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Barry. Yeah, looking forward to the chat tonight. And like Andrew says, two big games at the weekend for our two teams.
Superb. And of course, we have a opposition view, which, as I've said before, I'm always happy when our preview shows we've got the opposition fans on, because it just ups the level of conversation. It means it's not just a one-sided thing. We can actually get a little bit of insight into the other side. So I'm going to see if I get this right. It's definitely Craig, that bit I know, but he's from the Up the Cherries in All Departments podcast. Is that right?
Yep, you got it spot on. Got it spot on. UTC IAD. It's a saying that's just stuck with Bournemouth for years and years and years and years. So I kind of just stole it for the channel. Really, it's not my thought process.
Well, fair play and welcome to you. How are you? Everything all right?
Yeah, very, very well, very, very well, and looking forward to this game. It's been a very exciting season for us. I can't say it's all been smooth sailing because it hasn't, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But at this moment in time, not having to worry about a relegation battle. It's unique and it's quite nice for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we will definitely be getting into that. NT has obviously also been over on WFC. Lovely to see you. It's a double shift for both of us. So whether you're watching or taking part, it's still the same. So fair play to you for still joining us. That is an Andrew, just in case you're not sure what that picture is. And speaking of Andrews, here's another one. It's the Bean. Evening to you, sir. Lovely to see you in the chat too. And of course, if you are currently watching, please like and subscribe as ever. That's interesting. I've never seen it do that before. That's not what usually comes up. How exciting. Let's see if I can work that one out so it comes up like it normally does. But whilst we are waiting for that, let's begin the conversation about the game, because it's been an interesting week, John. A very interesting week. One in which 7 points have come and then just gone as quickly as they arrived, just over the horizon. The Liverpool game was obviously very depressing to lose that goal, given away a penalty, 3 penalties given away over the course of the week. But regardless of that fact, surely a point against Liverpool should always be seen in a positive light, as opposed to the somewhat negative light that it felt like as we were leaving Old Trafford on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like the context of the whole game, we're 1 down at half time when we could have been easily 3 or 4, and we'd not had a legitimate effort on goal ourselves. It was to come away with a 2-2 draw in the grand scheme of things wasn't bad at all. But he's just, like you say, you come away with that tinge of disappointment with having turned the game round on its head and gone in front, and then we get done by a extremely dodgy refereeing decision, to put it mildly, sort of thing. It does still leaves you with a sour taste, I think, when you come away from it.
It sounds like you don't think it was a penalty. I feel like you and I will probably be on opposite sides of the Andrew on this occasion. But yes, there has been a lot of conversation with regards to that. Dan telling us that he's broken the ticker. So let's just have a look and see if I have fixed it. Of course I have. There you go. So all is well. Please like and subscribe if you have the ability to do so, which you all do because you're watching this on YouTube. So come on now, chop, let's go. Andrew, how does it feel for you? You see, the one thing that I think all three games have in common, Brentford, Chelsea, and Liverpool, is that you were at all three. So are you going to Bournemouth would be question number one.
No, I didn't get a ticket nor a
So
return.
question two, you should be feeling quite confident about this weekend, no?
I don't know what happened last week. It was just like such a draining week, and then after Sunday, annoyed in two respects. One, I didn't think that was a penalty, and I'm like, I've seen the replay. I'm like, I know I've seen some people out there saying it is a penalty. I'm like, well, can you show me where it is? Because I'm still oblivious. And the second one, it's probably being a little bit annoyed at Erik ten Hag, and it's only the second time I've been annoyed at him this season. Obviously, I think it was early on in the season when during one game he took Højlund off, and I think we were losing. I was like, why have you took him off? We need a goal, and he's probably the most likely to score. I was just annoyed with the substitutions on Sunday. I was just like, I felt like it was 2-1 up. I thought, go and get the third. We can finish this game off. And then, because I felt like Casemiro was slowing down, he was getting, the ball was going through him, and I was just like, ball past him. I was just like, get him off. And I thought when Amrabat was coming on, I was like, oh, it's for Casemiro. He didn't come off. And then I was just like, and then we conceded. I was like, this is what it's typical United. I just thought at the moment, attack is our best form of defence. It's just like, let's go and try and score more than the opposition is. But yeah, it was definitely draining week last week, just seeing all the. I'm just thinking Chelsea being 3-2 up 5 minutes ago and then losing it, and then Brentford. It was just like, say Champions League qualification now appears a distant hope now. So as we go to Bournemouth tomorrow, and I just think, yes, it was a battling draw against Liverpool, but that's 3 game. It's a 3 game now where we haven't won. So, and we've been, in 2 of those matches we were ahead. So it's just like, I know we've dropped like 15 points from winning positions in the league this season. So that's the most we've ever done in a single league campaign. So we just, so we might have a game in hand on Aston Villa, but they're 11 points, ahead of us. So it's just like, I'm resigning myself to if we do finish 6th, Europa League and the Thursday Sundays next season. So it's just So I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. I would say we need a bit of revenge after what happened in December. Just like Bournemouth ripped us apart. You could tell from even the first 30 seconds what Bournemouth were trying to do, and it's like we just didn't know what to do about it. So hopefully it'll be an entertaining game. We come out on the right side of it tomorrow.
No, absolutely. Now, ordinarily, those of you who join us here on All for United will be fully aware that we generally tend to go for the 4-3 sometimes if need be. But when John Neville said he was available, I'm like, well, you've got to have him on. He's like grade A. So we're definitely having John Neville on. And Andrew said, yeah, I can be on tonight, Barry. I'm like, yeah, got to have an Andrew Wall as well. So when, of course, the one and only Jarvis Cocker says, I'm available on Friday, then you say, in you come, Jarvis. So we are going 4-on-1 today, which is slightly unfair to Craig, but we do promise to be nice to you. This looks very menacing now, the way in which we've surrounded you there in the middle.
It's fine.
We're all lovely. Jarvis, lovely to have you back on the channel, back on the show. How are you, and how are you feeling about the game this weekend? He's muted. Let's sort that out.
Yeah,
there we go.
Sorry about that. I'm good. So thank you for asking, Barry. Good to see you guys, Craig, Andrew, John. Sorry for being a couple of minutes late. I have the kids for the weekend, so I'm all alone with them. So I just had to put them to bed. But now I'm here. Yeah, the game tomorrow, I feel I'm a little bit anxious about that game because I think they are a much better team than we give them credit for. Actually, I think the manager Andone Iraola is an astute manager. It's one of the best, and I think Bournemouth wanted him because they wanted to take a step up from Gary O'Neill, and it have showed they have been consistent. Not only in taking points and winning games, but how they play. I admire how he gets the full team functioning as a unit, hardworking attackers, the forwards. Solanke, of course, always works hard, but also the wingers and Kluivert, the number 10. So and it gets them to work hard, work back, and the two central midfielders always grafting. They're not the most flashy players, but they work hard. You know what you're going to get. The left back, I think it was a Dutch guy, Kerkes or something like that. His name. Sorry if I misspelled his name, but I think he's very good. He impressed me on Old Trafford when we lost 3-0. One of the best players, and the Ukrainian center back, what a talent! I think he's 22, 21 years old. Really massive. I admire that guy. He's one of those I want at Man United next season, if it's possible for us to buy a young and up and coming centre back with Premier League experience. And I miss also the last couple of games. You haven't seen the Argentinian centre back, something on S. What's his name again?
Marcus Senesi.
Yeah, Senesi. Yeah, I like him. He reminds me a little bit of Martinez in the way he plays. He has that fire, that Argentinian fire, but it's not that as big, but he has a lot of technicality, good on the ball. So you have a lot of good players in Bournemouth, and I worry because we know what Iraola will come with. He will come with the mid-block. He will set traps. He will overloads on both sides, trying to stop us. So it will be impossible for us to play around them, and it will be compact in the middle. So where do we go? That's my biggest question for the game, because I don't see us outshining them with class, because I don't think we have shown that level of consistency with our players. Our play at the moment is ultra direct, extreme transition, playing high tempo, more chaos than control, but playing against a mid-block, low-block team who will sit back, work hard, and absorb our attacks. I think we will come back with nothing. So I'm worried.
No, absolutely. Lots of things being said at the moment. Most of all, though, this thing, NT Sam got a five-a-side team here, lads. Barry and goal. Are we forgetting the fact? I mean, I know that five-a-side goals are small. But I mean, you see the size of me, right? I mean, I would tumble around there like Humpty Dumpty. I don't know if you're trying to say that I would fill the goal. I don't know how I should feel about what you're saying about me as a five-a-side goalie, but I'm going to take that as something good. Craig up front, Jarvis the maestro in midfield, Andrew the Wall at centre-back, obviously, and Mr. John Neville at full-back, both sides, obviously. I suppose that begs the question, Craig, are you any good up front?
Do you know what? That's where I used to play. I did. Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. Wasn't bad at all. Quick, pacey, good left foot on me. Yeah, wasn't bad at all. Played at quite a decent level years ago. I say years ago because I am 38. If you ask me now to run around for 90 minutes on a Sunday morning, I think I'd probably struggle.
No, fair enough. Jarvis is always so good to listen to, says Connor there. That's good news because he's the boss. So that's great news for you to hear that. He also mentions, though, Craig, Semenyo here being such a baller. Now,
yes,
we're going to talk a little bit in just a moment about your side and potential lineups. But for the moment, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you know what, we'll do it slightly different. Why not? We'll start with the team. Why not? And just ask you a little bit about it because we mentioned Senesi already. Obviously, he came back against Luton, so you would imagine there's the opportunity to see him live and in Technicolor this weekend. Equally, though, you had some other problems. I believe Semenyo had to go off against Luton, so possible worry there. And you've got Chris Meetham and Tyler Adams both looking like they were, well, they're not questionable as to whether they come back or not.
Yeah.
And obviously, no Fredericks, Sinistera, or Tavernier. Aside from that, what do you see your team looking like, and how are you feeling about how your squad is looking this season?
For this game, personally, I think we're a little bit depleted. Of course, you've made a very good point there. Semenyo did come off injured against Luton. I'm hoping there's a possibility of him coming back into the side. Tavernier is less likely to do so. It's probable that he's going to be out. With regards to Sinistera, he would have been the perfect person to come in, but of course he is also out as well. So I think probably the midfield, we're going to have to mix it up a little bit. Now, the previous game to that was against Crystal Palace. Of course, a 1-0 win. Phil Billington started that game, did play very, very well. I think that Solanke is nursing a little bit of an injury as well. I said this a couple of weeks back, and when we were 3-0 down against Luton, of course, we won that game 4-3. We turned that game on its head. Of course, Luton was our last game as well. We went up to Kenilworth Road and got beat 2-1. And it looked like Solanke just kept touching the top of his left leg. And I think there's an injury. I think what they're trying to do is get him to the end of the season when they maybe are going to operate, or he's going to be able to have a bit of a prolonged break to get himself back in action for the following season. Whether or not that following season is with us, I don't know. But to give you my side, I think Neto will definitely start in goal. Does he deserve to start in goal? He's made quite a few mistakes this season. Looked a bit shaky. One way that Manchester United could get at Neto is that he's not very good. And this is a theory, actually. Some people agree with it in our fan base, some people don't. But that is that Neto doesn't seem to come for the ball as much as he used to. And that feels like that might have been given to him by Neil Moss, who's the goalkeeping coach. So I think that is where my concerns are. Not that Neto's become a poor goalkeeper, because he's not. I think maybe he's been told to stay on his line a little bit more, and the defence look after that. And I think that's made him susceptible to errors. I think the defence will stay exactly the same. You are right. Senesi is back, but you can't remove Lloyd Kelly, who is playing quite well. So I think Kirkes will probably play on the left as left back. Adam Smith right back. Of course, Max Aarons could be played in that position. Max Aarons was on the bench against Luton. And he is the long-term replacement for Adam Smith. But Adam Smith's just got a second wind this season. He's really liking playing under Iriola. So I think the centre pairing will be Zabanier, and I'll cover your point actually with regards to him, and Jarvis's point a little bit later on, because he's an outstanding player, and Lloyd Kelly, partnering him. We're not going to be keeping Lloyd Kelly, I can assure you of that. I think our midfield will go for probably a midfield 5. I think Justin Kluivert will probably keep his place, but Billing will be available should there be a dip in performance, which there has been at times. I think Kluivert is. I think Iriola will go with Kluivert to start, but sometimes I think Kluivert is better from the bench, because he was the player that scored the goal against Crystal Palace. He, when the Palace defence were tiring, he could run at them, he could cause problems. So I think it'll be Ryan Christie, Lewis Cook, Kluivert, and then on the wings, this is the big question. Semenyo may be back, but if he's not, what do we do in that instance? I might even change my midfield actually a little bit up here, because let's go with Semenyo on the left-hand side, but I'll give you an alternative. I think, if he's unable to play, Dongo Watara. That's how it's pronounced. It's actually spelled Dongo Otara, but it's Dongo Watara. So anybody who wants correct pronunciation, I think. Thinking with Tavernier's injury, let's change that up a little bit. Ryan Christie on the right hand side, and I think Alex Scott will come in with alongside Lewis Cook. That man Solanke's going to be up front. You know, he's played up front all season. I can't imagine against Manchester United we're going to go with Enisu now, but I'm still happy with that side. So my midfield, like I say, Alex Scott and Lewis Cook. You know, thinking about the injuries, Semenyo or Ouattara, depending of course if Semenyo's fit. Cliver a little bit more advanced, and then Ryan Christie on the right hand side. That's how I could imagine that we'll play like. But against Crystal Palace, everything went out the window, and we got a 1-0 win against them. And I just looked at that side and I thought they don't fancy it tonight. And to be fair, that was an outstanding performance against Palace. Palace weren't bad on the night. We were just better.
Which is interesting for sure. NT asking about Anana being injured. Now, I've not heard anything about Anana being injured, so I think that's just Twilumba being Twilumba, and throwing a little spanner in the works. And I don't think that's what's happened here. John Commode mentioning you don't have to worry about your keeper being able to come off his line, because we are hopeless at set pieces.
That's good. That's good.
We've not been great at them. We do hate a set piece, with our favourite set piece to give away at the moment is a penalty. So that'll be the interesting one. Can we not do that? PJ saying, nice job. I don't know who to, so just well done and one round of applause to you all. And yeah, no worries, Craig. We haven't fancied it all season. Well, such positive vibes going around, aren't there? Speaking of positive vibes, I'll go to Jarvis with this one. Marcus Rashford. Now, we don't know if he's going to start the game. He is got a late fitness test before he can be chosen. But the reason why I felt he was an interesting one to start our conversations about our side with was because obviously he's just one goal of the month. Now, the goal of the month was for the goal against Man City. It is a corking goal. It was a fantastic finish. And it came, I believe, 8 minutes into the game, which was obviously after he had put out that interview that he did with regards to, if you don't like me, brilliant. But if you are with me, even better. Or the other way around. If you're with me, brilliant. If you're not with me, even better. And it was a superb moment. But my question would be, since then, have we really seen that Marcus Rashford that we saw in that first half of Manchester City? So do you think a missing Marcus Rashford would matter in this game against Bournemouth, is what I'm kind of getting at there?
Yeah, as you say, Barry, he had a wonderful goal against Manchester City. It was a thunderbolt, but he hasn't done much since. I think he looks uninterested when he's on the pitch. He's not putting his body on the line. He doesn't try to get free kicks and stuff like that. He jumps away. He jogs around, and for me, I think his time is up. I wouldn't play Rashford for the rest of the season, to be honest. I don't like his attitude at the moment. For me, it looks like he's on his way out. Going back to his performance, it's not good enough this season compared to last season. Thing is this his level, or was last season his level? It's a difficult one because I think he's limited in his way of style. He's a pace merchant. He has a lot of pace. He can run. He has a decent shot. Can't dribble. You have no spatial awareness. Not good passing. I don't think he has many attributes, for being considered a top class player in a way. He has to prove and show more. And maybe it's just him and United. I don't think he's motivated more to play for us. So if he were to be sold this summer, I think it's time. I think it will be a good thing. Playing Rashford, no, I wouldn't do that if I was Ten Hag. I would go for a different solution, especially this game, because Bournemouth will sit a little bit more back. There won't be a lot of room to run into, so we can't use that the attributes of Rashford. I would rather have a player like Ahmad. He's more technical. He's better on the ball, and he has more on his repertoire. Going 1-against-1, I think we will have our chances. We will be isolated 1-against-1 against the fullback sometimes, and then we can have our chance. But we need to be clinical. We need to be smart in our play. And the thing is, this is a different kind of game. I mentioned we can't play the ultra direct, extreme position, high tempo game. We need to be more controlled. We need to pass the ball. If Bournemouth will sit in a low block, we will play around from one side to the other, and we have to be patient. And it relies on the wingers also to be patient. And if you don't have the chance, if your road is blocked, pass the ball backwards again and start again. So that's why I think we need to do this without Rashford.
No, absolutely, and Rana's not injured. We can confirm that as well. And Tulumba has just said that as well. So there we go. No need to worry about Andre and Nana. John Neville. Feel free to have your say on Marcus Rashford, but I wanted to move it on a little bit to the United defence, because obviously when you start looking at the injury list, it's always the defence that seems to have the vast majority of them written in there. Unlikely to see Varane, Johnny Evans, Tominay, I know he's not a defender, but he does get used back, moving backwards quite a bit. Martinez obviously not around. Lindelof, no good. Maguire should be okay. Obviously, Kambuala potentially okay as well, but our fullbacks very much being Wan-Bissaka and Dalot. How do you see that defense? Because one of the things I put on the tweet when we were putting it out was, did Kambuala for you play himself into that starting position for the weekend? Because for me, I absolutely think he did. I think any team that does not involve Willie Kambuala in a starting lineup tomorrow is the wrong team, because I think that young man, and I think the kids are just showing the adults how to behave massively here. The way in which he did that slide tackle, I mean, it was right at our end, wasn't it, Andrew? So it was superb to watch. He slides in, he did exactly what Anthony didn't do. So whereas Anthony would have come in the wrong side and fouled him and gave away the penalty, he did what I suggested. He obviously watches the show. He went, I know what to do here. He came around the side, got himself between the ball, puts it behind, and then he didn't just stop there. He's then shouting at the Stretford end and getting them to roar us on a bit more whilst it was a bit quieter. And that's what we say, he's just a youngster, so he's got to have played himself into that starting lineup, surely.
Yeah, definitely. He was very impressive on Sunday. Like I say, that recovery he made at one point in the Liverpool game was phenomenal. Really looked like he was sort of left for dead, but he did fantastically well in that situation. But yeah, I'm sure he'll play. I'm sure it'll be the same back four as it was against Liverpool. Mainly, obviously, because we haven't got anybody else available. We're literally down to those two centre backs and those two full backs. Basically, no other option apart from when he's getting some another youngster from the under-18s. But it'll I'm absolutely sure it'll be the same back four again.
There we go. Andrew, if you want to amalgamate those two questions together, Marcus Rashford and Willie Kambuala, effectively, two very different players at very different stages of their star rising, but still both amazing youngsters when they've been coming through. Let's never forget just how much of an impact Marcus Rashford made when he was given that debut by Louis van Gaal. So, both very, very good. And for you, Kambuala, surely ignore the fact that there's virtually nobody else to choose from. Let's just take that away from the whole, he kind of has to play unless you want to play there, Barry. That wouldn't be me, it would be you, because you're our centre-back for the five-a-side team. What do you reckon? How would you start that back four tomorrow?
Well, just firstly on Marcus Rashford, it's an interesting one with him at the moment. Where is he going and where's he going to go next? I mean, for a good spell of around 2 years, he was completely unplayable on that left wing, running at the full backs with his pace, turning them inside out, cutting inside with devastating effect. But if you just think back to, I think, a game against Liverpool about 6 years ago, we left Trent Alexander-Arnold in like a mess. He was like turning him inside out, and just like that's the Marcus. See it, and like last season scoring all those goals, but you almost say consistency is what separates, the best, world class footballers, and it's almost like the one sticking point you can say with Rashford is the consistency. I mean, you could say that about Anthony Martial as well, but as I say, he's like, and also sometimes when Rashford is playing through the middle as well, has been known to say he was unhappy playing through that in that position. He much preferred to be on the left wing. So it was almost like, well, when he plays through the middle, he's not as effective. So getting back out in the position, he's more capable of doing more stuff as well. So it's just even my dad said this, and he's a Liverpool fan. From an outside perspective, does it seem like Marcus Rashford's time is up at United? But I don't know. It's almost like he's cutting a similar figure to Martial. And when you put under that microscope, it's more, I don't know, more infuriating than you perhaps initially consider. And as to say, with Martial, just my opinion, he just has no emotional ties to Man United, whereas Rashford, he's a born and bred United fan. He's grew up, but then he's worked his way all the way up into the first team. So it's just, it'll be an interesting summer what happens with Marcus. So I'll be gladly happy he stays, but I don't know, with the new regime in place, if he did leave, then we've had some nice memories, but it's just, I don't know where Marcus Rashford goes next, because we just want him to be playing that consistent football as well. So it's just,
it just looks like he's lost his love for the game, doesn't he? I think he just
some games he like.
But is a bit of that his injury? The fact that he said he's had a bit of an injury, and we think back to before he scored his 30 goals, and I think I've remembered this right, but he had the injury with his neck, and that took a while, so he wasn't quite at his best. And then they did the surgery, comes back last season, absolutely blows it apart, scores 30 goals, just has the best season he's ever had. Now this season he seems to have dropped back a little bit. Is a bit of that the fact that he's got himself injured again, or is it something else?
I'd say partly that injury, but as much as I'm not a fan of his, I think Alan Pardew said it on the radio about Marcus Rashford. Sometimes he switches off during games and he doesn't quite switch back on again. And I'm just like, it's probably the coaches trying to work with him on that. You've got to just be switched on at all times, because you never know when your opportunities coming next, when you're going to score or set up a teammate as well. So it's just as I say, Marcus, I know he had that interview a couple of months back saying, questioning his commitment to United. But we're not questioning it. We know he goes out there trying to give his best. It's just, I don't know, something's not clicking at the moment. So it's, yes, football, or was it something else outside? We don't know. To say all footballers have their private lives, so who are we to know what's going on behind closed doors as well? So a bit of both, injuries and mentality in the game. But secondly on the defence, I know we've got such an injury crisis, but Willie Camwala last week, I was just like, I thought it's a big game for him to come in Liverpool, but he handled it with such grace, and I was just like, as you said during that game, I think was it Nunes that was going through and he got caught, and then he came back on the inside and then got that tackle in. I was just like, that shows his mentality. And even that, I think he said he won all his ground duels, completed 29 passes, but I think it was his mentality afterwards in the interview. He said, while he might be being praised for his fantastic display, he was like, well, I'm actually disappointed we didn't win that. And I'm just like, yeah, we didn't take the 3 points, but you can be proud of his second senior start as well. I'm just thinking, I'm looking forward to seeing him play alongside Harry Maguire. I was just like, with Harry coming back as well, I was thinking Martinez. I thought finally I can see that partnership, but now Cam Waller's coming. I'm just like, oh, I'm really excited. I think, as you said, Barry, the kids are doing all right. Cam Waller, Garnacho, Mainu, they've, Ten Hag's had to turn to them a lot more this season. I'm just thinking, thinking the Champions League, a distant hope. Let's throw more of the kids in. Because Harry Amas was on the bench on Sunday, and I was thinking, I know Wan-Bissaka's been playing at left back, but play Harry Amas there as well. I'm just like, give him a game, see what he can do as well. So I'm just like, I say, you've still got the FA Cup play for, but that's probably more important.
I mean, it is interesting because Ten Hag was spoken to about in the press conference. He spoke about Harry Maguire. He was deliberately asked about him. And he talks about how you have to see the situation in the summer with Harry in perspective, which I think is a very interesting comment that he's made. We're always happy with Harry Maguire, but he wants to play. He's a great leader. That's why we've taken the captaincy off him, obviously. A very good defender, which is why he wanted to sell him, obviously. And he's very comfortable on the ball. And when I count all those abilities just now in our defensive line with all these problems, he's even more important for us. So I think it's very interesting. Dan has said before when he comes on here that Harry Maguire is one of the people that might have saved Eric Ten Hag's job. And I find it hard to disagree with that. Just going back briefly to Marcus Rashford, PJ saying injury doesn't stop you from running or passing. I will think you will find injury very much stops you from running or passing. The argument should be if he's that injured that he can't run or pass, he probably shouldn't be on the pitch, would be the point I would make there. But yeah, lots of...
Barry, I have a question going back to Rashford. We have such an astute panel here with a lot of good footballing people. So my question is, when it comes to Rashford, everybody talks about Rashford, injuries, form, motivation, whatever. But could it be as easy as we know Ten Hag changed up his tactics this season and we are playing in a different way? Last season, it was very easy. We had most of the time two sitting midfielders and Bruno playing as a number 10, and Bruno giving the ball to Rashford and Rashford scoring. That was the recipe. This season, Bruno plays much deeper as a number 8. We play with 2 number 8s, and it demands that the wingers drop back further. We've seen when Rashford, especially in the beginning of the season, when he got the ball, he had a lot of space because it was deep, and he started running with it. With this tunnel vision, dribbling 1, 2, 3 guys and lost the ball over and over and over again. So for me, I think maybe this has something to do with Ten Hag and the new tactic he have set up, this high tempo, extreme transition, ultra direct football in a way. And I don't think it suits Rashford in a way. And I think that's the biggest problem. And this is where the frustration and comes from Rashford, because it's not the way he wants to play. So this is my theory. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm onto something?
Could Bobby go on around, give him a shout back, and then we'll bring Craig in.
I agree with Ten Hag and his tactics, yes, Jay. I'm just thinking we're trying to play that high tempo, high intensity, but it's a bit, at the moment, this season's been a bit chaotic, and I'm just like, and it's like in the key moments, we've tripped and fall down, like, take Chelsea, for example, it was just like chaos and just like, the key moments, we just switching off and like defensively. But even when Marcus came on during that game, it was just like, it just was like he should have been fresh. He should have been the one running about, trying to get him. I think I said it on the last show. I think there's that pick with him, tracking down Cole Palmer, and I'm just like, he didn't put a foot in. It was just like, just a little bit of a job. I thought, I get if he was like, you played 80 minutes and you're tired, but it's like you were fresh. And I'm just like, just like acquire a lot of concentration, trying to get back. I think even when Anthony first came in to us, he wasn't tracking back as much. And Ten Hag was like, pulled him aside and said, look, you've got to help the defence out because you're just leaving them all. You're leaving Wan-Bissaka or Delo exposed to the opposition because they'll be putting 2 players on the defender trying to overlap, and just like Anthony does track back a lot more now, which I've seen. But I don't know whether Marcus likes tracking back, but I know he's a winger, he's attacking, he wants to be on the ball, wants to be getting moved forward, but sometimes you just got to do the dirty parts of the job is just helping the team out, and then time to come to attack as well. So yeah, but just be interesting. Like as I said in the summer, what happens to Marcus, but also the players. Who leaves, who comes in, and what Ten Hag sees as United going forward as well. So essentially, it's the kids coming through as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one to say the least.
Okay, fair points. Craig, we'll throw you back in because these lot have been windbags for the last 15 minutes or so. So let's give you a chance to get some of the air out of your lungs. And I specifically wanted to talk to you about Dominic Solanke, because I think if anyone, certainly well, maybe not on this panel because they're quite clever, this lot, but if you'd have asked me name a Bournemouth player, the first one I'd have come up with would have been Dominic Solanke. He's been superb for you this season. 22 goal involvements out of the 35 games that he's played, 18 goals, 4 assists. Number one, I know you mentioned that it was the potentially might not be able to play, but it seems positive based on what I'm seeing on any match previews. He's not being mentioned as someone who won't be able to play.
Yeah.
First of all, how much do you think Dominic Solanke has contributed to your season as a whole, the fact that you're currently in 12th? And secondly, with that, how much do you think Dominic Solanke can have an effect on the game tomorrow, based on the fact that obviously he was also one of the players who scored a goal in the 3-0 drubbing, I shall call it, earlier on this season. And that's the most positive thing that I'm going to give you all day. So take that. 3-0 drubbing.
Yeah, fair enough. Dominic Solanke has been absolutely fantastic this season. To be honest, he's benefited did benefit from AFC Bournemouth being relegated during the COVID season, because before that he looked very, very unlikely to break into the first team. He was behind Callum Wilson and Josh King. When he did come on, it was just bit parts. It didn't look comfortable in front of goal. And then we got relegated that season, and there was more pressure on him, more expectation on him. And he's become a better and better player. What Dominic Solanke does, Barry, is he drops back and he'll make things happen as well. He's not just an out and out goal scorer. When we was relegated to the championship at the start of that first championship season, we said, can't see him getting 20 goals, and then he's just come out of his shell. He's matured as a player. He's a good reader of the game. He's in the right place at the right time. The best example is that first goal up at Old Trafford. A lot of credit for this has to go to Lewis Cook, because how he pounced on that ball, he had no divine right to get to that ball. He got to that ball, crossed it on the deck. Solanke was there. Outstanding, absolutely outstanding. I think Solanke has been, a real star this season. I don't, I always imagined he would play this game. I think the injury is a long-term thing. It's probably one of those niggly things which, they're just trying to get him to the end of the season with. But he looked like he was suffering a little bit, in that 4-3 win against Luton. But, he still did well during that game. My concern is that, he overexerts himself and then does end up with an injury that will put him out for the rest of the season, because we're at this point. But we have got somebody in who, could probably fill that gap, not like for like, but Enes Ünal, who's a Turkish international. We signed him from Getafe on loan with the option to buy. He is, the player that I think, could fit in. He's also the player that I think, has been earmarked by Iriola as somebody who we needed to sign. We needed that agreement with Getafe, because are we going to keep hold of Dominic Solanke in the summer? hand on heart, I had this conversation. In fact, I was welcomed on to Talk Sport to speak to Alan Pardew. He turned around, and this was during the January window. He said, if somebody offers you 60 million, you're going to take it. I was like, no, not at this point in time, because in the summer, he's going to be worth a bit more. And I think, we could sell him for a bit more, of course, PSR permitting, because I think PSR is going to push prices down, and what teams, the top teams, are going to, because look at it this way, if, say, for example, Manchester United want Dominic Solanke, you're not going to go out and break the bank and put yourself in that problem, in the issues. And Man City, with all their money and, of course, breaking the rules as well, they aren't going to go out and say, right, okay, we'll just beat that figure. We're just going to blow Man United out of the water. It's going to push prices down. So 60 million might be right, but, in the old market, I would say we'd be asking for 70, 80 million. We might still get it. And I think we might have to just accept, that Solanke is probably going to move on. Like, if you don't mind, I'll touch on Zabania as well, which Jarvis did mention. Zabania is going to be one, and I'll state this now, is going to be one of the best central defenders in the world. He's going to be one of the best central defenders in the world. He is outstanding. His positioning, against Crystal Palace, there was a, I'm trying to, I think it was Erebeshiezi was running through, and Zabania just out of nowhere managed to hook the ball. A lot of defenders at that point would have brought Eze down, and it would have been a penalty. The referee would have pointed to the spot. But Zabania did it to such perfection that, there was, it was, honestly, he's a quality player. Are we going to be able to keep him? He is a player that we know he's going to be here for a moment. We're going to absolutely love him whilst he's here. A bit like Nathan Ake, and he's going to move on, and we can't do anything about it. Can't do anything about it. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona, who do just seem to make up their own rules anyway.
I mean, judging by the chat, you can have Marcus Rashford if you want. Seems to be what's being said down the sides here.
To be fair, if Rashford is feeling a little bit deflated with the game at the moment, and of course he's struggling with, getting into the Manchester United team, adapting, it might be a good move for him. I don't, Rashford might not want it to be a permanent thing, but a loan to Bournemouth, would actually make sense in our style of play. And, it might actually get, Rashford back up to the level where whoever is Man United manager, I can't imagine it being Ten Hag. I think personally you need to move on from Ten Hag in the summer. And I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. But I personally think that, it would be quite a good move, and whoever takes over might think, well, Rashford can slot into this team.
Indeed. Interesting points here by John Kamada. Rashford and Solanke swap deal, maybe. And I brought PJ's comment up because I did have to say, fair play. Touche, sir. I sat there and had a go at you about how injuries absolutely do stop you running, but must be a very strange injury that lets you sprint and score pile drivers, but be unable to pass the ball into space for an overlap or press at more than 5 miles an hour. So fair play to you, sir. That was a stunning comeback. Well done. Good job. So yeah, that was the main question I had to ask you with regards to your strikers. But I did just want to ask you as well. Obviously, you've had a new manager yourself. You've alluded to Ten Hag there, but I'm going to butcher his name now. Iraola.
Andoni Iraola, yes.
Oh, there we go. That was good. I got it.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah,
Hey,
not
go
bad at
me.
all.
Oh,
Not
I
bad at
love
all.
it. You know what? I have a go. It's like bullseye. Every once in a while, I have a crack and just get it right, which is
Do you know
brilliant. So
what? When Zabani had actually joined, I started calling him on my show. I kept going about Zabarini, so I turned him Italian for a little while. But yeah,
why not?
it's Zabania.
Absolutely. But I wanted to ask for your thoughts on how you've done this season, because obviously 39 points you managed last season, 41 already, no danger of relegation whatsoever. It's been a very positive season for you, building on a lot of the work that's gone before. How are you feeling as a Bournemouth fan with regards to your season, how it's gone so far, and again looking ahead to next year? Do you think you've got a foundation you can build on, or are you worried that people like Dominic Solanke might go? Then you're left with people like Justin Kluivert and Semenyo, who have been perfectly adequate, but again their goals between them haven't quite hit the level of Solanke on his own, so you'd be missing that piece. What's your general thoughts?
I'm going to probably give you a long-winded answer here. Going to give you a long-winded answer, and I think this needs to go back to the last summer. So Gary O'Neill, everybody sat there, not thinking what's going to happen. Phone goes, my mate Matt, Gary O'Neill's been sacked. I thought, what on earth is going on? Of course, it's on Sky Sports. I was livid at the time. Now, not every Bournemouth fan, was with me that Gary O'Neill, to be honest, some of the things he did was limited. Some of the football that he played was not attractive, but it was effective. And that's what Wolves are finding. It's not sometimes, silky smooth football, which we're enjoying at the moment, but it's effective football. And then the following day, of course, Iriola announced. And knowing quite a bit about La Liga, I thought, right, that makes sense. Rayo Vallecano manager, a club that, is probably the size of Luton Town, has managed, to get them into a position at one point during the season where they could have got in the Champions League. Copa del Rey semi-finals, beating Barcelona, Real Madrid, and quite comfortably as well at times. So I thought, well, that makes sense. It starts the season, and we go on. There were some good points in there. We drew against Chelsea. We drew against West Ham. Those were good performances. But there was also the very, very bad. And what I mean by the very, and I started to doubt him. I was the man who turned around and I said, I don't think Iriola, I don't think he is actually suited for the Premier League. It's a different style of football to what he's actually, you know, used to. I thought that he was trying to play too far the Arsenal way and the Man City way, but with Bournemouth, and we haven't got the players of Arsenal and Man City. The there's 3 games in, well, 4 games in particular. Brighton, we actually went 1-0 up. A mistake at the back, 1-1 all, and then from our own kickoff, 16 seconds later, we've conceded, and I thought it's just schoolboy errors. The worst of the lot was the Everton defeat. Of course, there was Arsenal as well, 4-0. Very, very poor performance. The Everton defeat has to be up there with the 9-0 defeat that we had at Liverpool under Scott Parker last season. It was that shambolic. Um, Everton was shit. We were just worse. We were terrible, absolutely terrible that day. And then Gary O'Neill come back to Dean Court and got a win with his Wolves side. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a very, it was Gary O'Neill performance from Wolves, but again, it was effective. And then the corner was turned. We got a result against Burnley. Again, I didn't read too much into it because I thought Burnley not particularly very good. And we went on this run. And what I can explain is at the start of the season, Iriola was playing very much a passing, possession-based football. After the Burnley game, he played a bit more direct because he had to. Played a little bit more direct. Bill Foley was actually at that game, and I am 100% sure if Jay Rodriguez's goal had accounted, Iraola wouldn't have been kept on as Bournemouth manager. We wouldn't have had that result at Old Trafford, and that corner wouldn't have been turned because he would have been sacked that day. I honestly do. But we turned the corner. We got stronger. Like I say, the win against Manchester United at Old Trafford is one of the best performances I've ever seen in the Premier League from ourselves, and that includes the Eddie Howe time. So this season, I am absolutely delighted with Iraola now. He's gone more direct. He's established what needs to happen. Again, at Old Trafford, you probably saw it. We play with a high press. One of the first things, from our own kickoff, we put it into your corner effectively and put Manchester United straight away under pressure. That's Iraola's stance now. More direct, good high pressure. It doesn't work against everybody, but we are, I'm delighted with this season now. And, they say football fans are fickle. Yeah, I'm definitely fickle. I went from absolutely loving Gary O'Neill and saying, no, worst thing ever, to Iraola being pointed and saying, well, I can understand, to saying Iraola out after the Everton game. And now I'm back to absolutely loving him because I think, he's an outstanding manager, but he has adapted, and he had to adapt to really keep his job.
Fair points. Jarvis, I'm going to bring it around to you now because talking about what Craig just said there, PJ's mentioning United won't like the direct approach. We have currently conceded, and I know this is a point that you are passionately wanting to talk about. I'm going to give you your shot here today to get this out into the public domain. 554 shots have been conceded by Manchester United this season, of which 553 have been goals. I'm joking, but it feels like it. 554 shots. We've been peppered. It's been like going to a paintball range and just being fired at by all the rich kids that have got all the money to buy all the paintballs. It's been terrible. We are only 6 away from the league high set by Sheffield United. So I feel like it's probably going to be broken at some point, probably in this game after Bournemouth have finished their 37 shots that they're likely to have. It's just how many of them have gone in the net. It's not sustainable, is it, to continually concede the high number of shots that we're conceding against, and forgive my wording for this, just anybody in the league. Like, you can understand conceding 30 shots against the likes of City, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Arsenal that have these patterns of play and these teams that are set up for it. But when it's every team in the league coming in, it's like a Pizza Hut buffet. It's just everybody's got their fingers in having a go. It's madness. It's not sustainable, is it?
No, it's not. That's obvious. We can't concede 550 shots in 30 games or a little bit more. For me, I think John Kermode in the chat spoke about the Rashford's press play, and the press play is one of the triggers why we look so open, because we play the 3-1-6 formation and we overcommit because we don't press in the right way. I liked us much better when we played with the false 9, because then we had almost 2 strikers and 2 midfielders, and then you get the shadow pressing from the 2 in front, so there's almost 4 blocking the central area. But when we only play with Højlund pressing, Rashford coming in pressing, same with Anthony, who has played most of the games on the right, or Garnacho, we always have a problem because we overcommit, because when those guys push up, the 2 number 8s push up, suddenly we are 5, and if the opposition team drop with another midfielder, Casemiro comes up, and then we have a big gap in the middle of the field, and we have 2 center backs with no pace, who have no guts, who doesn't have the courage to press up and fill that gap, because they don't feel secure enough, and then we have a big gap, and when the opposition then play through our press, it's a highway. You can just run with the ball, and we have seen it over and over again, and we saw it from the first game of the season against Wolves, and we see it again and again. Going back to the technical part, when it comes to Rashford, he doesn't know how to press, and for me, it's about cutting passing lanes. It's not just about winning the ball when you press. You don't run full speed ahead up to the guy who's carrying the ball. It's about cutting the passing lane for the guy, making him choose one side. And when you choose one side, then you put your press in. Bournemouth is very good at this press. I saw it against us on Old Trafford. That's why I mentioned traps. When they press, they press in traps, because they don't press with more than, I would say, 4 guys, and maybe one of the midfielders comes in as a shield behind them. But they do it in one side, because Solanke is very smart in his press. He angles his run and he blocks the passing lane, presses us over to one side, and then everybody see the trigger signal, and boom, you have a pressure that works. But we don't play that way. We overcommit. We don't press to one side. We press with all of the width of the pitch. So we have 6 guys overcommitting high and a big gap. So for me, it's a big problem. And I have been critical to Ten Hag this season because I wanted him to address this. And we have 2 decent press players in Højlund and Garnacho. Bruno is a little bit undisciplined too, same as Rashford. And then we have a problem. So I have been stating this season that we will probably function better as a unit without Rashford and Bruno, our 2 main men in this team. And people don't agree with me, but I'm talking about the press play and how to function as a unit, and we always get played through. So, but I don't know if Ten Hag is pressured to play Rashford all the time, because he has to be aware that Rashford's press play is not good enough, and it hinders us in the way we play our game. So it's difficult, but yeah, the press play is the trigger for me, the defensiveness. And of course, when you have Martinez back, it looks a little bit better, because he has more guts when he press. He comes up higher, he follows his man, he's more aggressive, he's on the point, pushing, and we don't get that from Maguire. But on tomorrow's game, I know I'm rambling on, but I'm just going to mention one more point. Tomorrow's game, I'm a little bit worried, because I think Solanke will be stuck on Maguire. Solanke, people talk about his movement and his smartness in his game, but he's actually a really good header of the ball, and his flick-ons is very good. So you need to mark him tight. You don't want to let him go. And the problem is Maguire don't have any pace. So I fear that Solanke will drag Maguire out of his position, and it will create a big gap for example, Kluivert and one of the wingers and maybe one of the midfielders to come on deep runs. So that will be one of my biggest fear tomorrow is Maguire against Solanke.
Say his name again.
Solanke.
I love the way you've said it before made it sound like he was a very tall man, but in sort of British slang of lanky, which it was just brilliant. I was like, it's little things that please me, Jarvis, and that one there very much did please me. But no, brilliant stuff as ever. Always good to listen to Jarvis's points there. NT saying the worst thing about these shots is that we most likely won't see a marked improvement, at least consistently, until next season. With PJ asking, are any of these long-range shots, do we know much about them? The answer to that is no, but as NT points out here, I think it's a problem regardless, because what teams have learned at the moment is that if they shoot, wherever it be from distance, close range, we've not been adept at dealing with any of them, really. So as a result, if you can get a shot away, a bit like this, taking pot shots at Onana, it could potentially be a problem. John Neville, simple question for you, really. Diogo Dalot is going to be celebrating, should he play, which is likely considering we've only got 4 defenders, his 100th Premier League appearance. How do you rank Diogo Dalot's season, and how important do you think he might be tomorrow? Because going forward, I think he's been really, really good. Defensively, not so sure, especially when he's been in the left back position. So which side do you think they'll put him on, and how important do you think he might be?
I'm surprised. A little bit surprised at that, actually, that he's only just got to 100 Premier League games. It seems though he's been around for longer than that. But
He
obviously
hasn't played very often, has he? Because he wasn't always prepared to Wan-Bissaka. Remember those good old days when you actually had a left back?
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah, and of course he did go out on loan for that season, didn't he? A couple of years ago. But I would think he'll probably stick with what he's been doing and leave him at right back, and Wan-Bissaka left back seems to be what he prefers at the moment. I mean, I don't really rate Wan-Bissaka playing at left back, but we haven't got much alternative, unfortunately, at the moment, like you say. So I think it'll be Dallo on the right. Some games he's been very impressive. Other times he has been found wanting in defensive situations, like you say. But he's got a good right foot on him. He can put a decent cross in. He's got a decent shot on him as well. So he's definitely been an important player for us this season. But unfortunately, he just seems to have these lapses when it comes to defensive work. Getting wingers getting in behind him and things like that. So it is. He'll need to be on his game tomorrow because the last game, the home game against Bournemouth, the defence was just it was just an absolute shambles. Really, I mean, I think to be fair to Bournemouth, I think they're probably the best. That was probably the best performance I'd seen in an away team against us this season, in all honesty. But even though we were very, very poor from a defensive point of view.
Fair enough. Now, normally when we do these shows, I throw out like a tiny little mini quiz, and I do have one, but I'm only going to give this to John because I feel like Andrew just shows off all the time, and I want to give John the opportunity to get this. And I don't think it's going to take you long at all, purely because Dallo will be the fourth Portuguese player for Manchester United to reach 100 Premier League appearances. Can you name the other three?
Portuguese.
Yes.
Ronaldo.
Yes.
Nani.
Yes.
And Bruno.
There you go. See, I knew he'd get it. But if I'd have done that as an open quiz, Andy would have been there straight in with all three.
I know, yeah, he would, yeah.
Outrageous. And Jarvis wouldn't have had the time to unmute by the time we'd let that happen. So there we go. We will let Andy speak. Very simple little question I've got to ask you. We mentioned this week 7 points dropped in those 7 days, which were really depressing, which was almost half of our total amounts of points dropped. 15 points we've dropped so far this season from winning positions, which is the worst we've ever had. Now, as we said, you were the reason why we conceded those goals in the second half in those previous 3 games. So it seems only right to give you the right to reply as we finish off here. And I want to leave you with what I can only find is the most positive statistic that I've seen so far. Bournemouth have scored 45 goals in the top flight this season. Only 31% of them have come in the first half, which is the lowest percentage in the division, meaning they've scored 31 of their goals in the second half. So, just how big will the score need to be in order to stop the Andrew Wall curse from continuing and us dropping more points this weekend?
I think we need to score about 15 goals at that rate just to get a win. But now travel to Bournemouth. I think we've won the last 4 of the 6 against Bournemouth, and I think we only lost twice. I think back in 2019 and 2015. So yes, Bournemouth got the the worthy winners of the in the reverse fixture at Old Trafford. Just like with Solanke, Billing, and Senese scoring as well. So I think. One of them scores against us tomorrow, I think they'll equal obviously we'll hope to join Josh King, who used to play for us, is the only other Bournemouth player to score both home and away against United in the Premier League campaign. So we've got to be wary of what Bournemouth are capable of. Say they've done really well this season. When say Craig mentioned about Gary O'Neill, I was surprised when they sacked him. I sort of thought Bournemouth might go down, but they haven't, and they've exceeded probably expectations as well. And they've it's probably potentially could be on for their highest finish in the Premier League season, because there's a chance of you catching Chelsea, maybe even finishing 7th in the league as well. So say Bournemouth have got a lot to fight for towards the end of the season as well. So yeah, it's just, and plus you've won the last 3 of your home Premier League games. So
Yeah.
So we're going into a bit of a cauldron. So we're going to have to be really at it tomorrow, and just United. That's the thing. Even though I said it earlier, we're playing this in this chaotic way, but we can't keep tripping and falling down in these key moments. Chelsea is the prime example. Standing there at Stamford Bridge 2 minutes ago, 3-2 up, was like, we can see this out, and I was like 5 minutes later going, how have we just lost that? That's been United all season. Sometimes snatching defeat at the jaws of victory, and I'm just like, we can't be doing that. And just want to pick up on Jarvis' point about the shots faced as well. That's probably the one thing that's been most consistent about United this season, is the shots we've faced at our goal. So I think it began at the opening day of the season. When Wolves came to us, I think they recorded 23 shots at our goal, even though they failed to score, and though some would argue they should have had a penalty as well. So just other teams have conceded shots as well. So, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's not been an entire trend through Ten Hag's time at United, the whole entire time at United. So I think last season 11 other Premier League teams faced more shots, and while only 2 conceded fewer goals. So yes, injuries haven't helped our defence either, I think the central defensive partnership, we've had that many this season. I don't think we've had the same back four starting more than 4 league games this season. So I say I don't think we're conceding as many goals as you expect, despite how many shots we're facing. That's probably down in largely part to Anana as well. Yes, he's come in for some criticism in his first season, but in the Premier League, he's showing some sense of showing his worth as well. So yeah, it's just, I think where we're conceding the shots from, it's just like, and where our eyebrows raising is through the midfield, is where even on Sunday against Liverpool, was like sometimes that Casemiro, I was like, you're just getting bypassed, and I'm just like, we need somebody who's going to be in there. I don't know, it's because Casemiro's just coming back from injury and he's just not up to the pace as he was. But yeah, I just think the shots we are conceding as well, it's just like it's almost like we're limiting the opposition to low quality, but doesn't that mean restricting to like long range efforts too? I think at the start, the average distance of the shots faced by United is like 16.6 meters. So yeah, it's just, I don't want to say we shouldn't fear the volume of shots against us. It's just as long as we remain in control, don't concede. It's like we just remain in control. Like I say, the opposition can have as many shots on the goal, but if they don't score, they can't win. So, but yeah, it's one of those. So tomorrow is going to be an interesting game. As I said, Bournemouth, they're going to be well up for it as well. So yeah, we're just going to have to be.
Like 554 shots, you'd think to yourself, well, we might concede 600 by the end of the season, but actually, we're probably going to have conceded 600 shots by the end of April at this rate. So.
But you'd expect a lot more. We'd have had the worst defensive record, was conceded a lot of goals, but we kind of haven't. So it just trying to get that out of United season. How we not on paper or looking at those stats, we should have done a lot worse. We should be further down the table. But we're not. So.
Right.
Yeah, but we obviously sorry, Barry. We obviously not playing in balance. That's the thing, and I think Ten Hag now is trying to expand more. He's playing more on taking more chances in a way, and this is what we see with all those shots. Because we don't have control in our game, we play in chaos in a way, and it's about taking chances every time, trying to get that transition going. And every time we win the ball, you see the distance between the guy who intercepts the ball, like, for example, Casemiro, up to Bruno, who will be next, or Rashford, who will be next. It's extremely long. So we always play with this chaos thing, and the pass from the midfielder, deep lying midfielder to our attackers is really long. So we always comes in, win the ball, lose the ball, win the ball, lose the ball, and we have the people call it the tennis football or the basketball.
Yeah, looking left and right all the time, going, which way are we going?
But this is Ten Hag's tactics, without a doubt. It's what he's want to do this season. He wants to try this, and I think it's in a way succeeding. I don't think it's easy to play against Man United. I don't think you ever feel comfortable, because you never know what you're going to meet, because every time you lose the ball, it could be a goal scoring opportunity. So in a way, it would be interesting to see this tactic with a lot better players, in a way, giving Ten Hag a structure and time to build.
It's an interesting one. I mean, you think about it, the Big Bang Theory, look at the chaos that came out from that, and look what beautiful things were born from that. But that's maybe a little bit too much of an analogy for 9:45 on a Friday night. So we shall move it on from that to what we think the score is going to be. So, Craig, we'll let you go first on this one so we can get the potential negativity out of the way. But obviously, you've got to be confident. You were 3-0 in the last game.
Yeah.
Are you feeling confident going into the game? And if so, what can you see the scoreline being?
I am confident. I think we're capable of doing the double over Manchester United. I can't even believe that I'm saying that. You know, I think it's a very good point, actually, that Jarvis brought up about Manchester United's goal being peppered this season by shots. I was actually checking out a statistic, and you know, even though you were unbeaten against them, you know, 90 goals against in 3 games from Liverpool, you know, is a shocking statistic, really. And you know, Manchester United shouldn't be having those statistics against them. I think, you know, there is some injury concerns, and I think, yes, we could do the double over yourself. I did go, you know, on my preview that I did earlier on today, I did go with a bit more of a conservative approach. I think it'll probably be a draw. I think it'll be a 1-1. However, I'll tell you what my guest said. I had Gaz Whelan on from the Happy Mondays. He actually said AFC Bournemouth were going to beat Manchester United either 3-1 or 3-2. So, yeah, he's a little bit more confident than I am, but in us getting the result.
Fair play indeed. Well, there you go then. That's the thoughts of Bournemouth. NT saying 2-1 United. I'll be surprised if we score more than 2 and if we didn't concede either. And the stats would back you up on that. Due to the fact we conceded in 8 successive top flight away matches since our 0-0 draw at Anfield in December, where we've shipped 17 goals. So the chances are that we are going to concede tomorrow, but who knows, because Onana has had a fair few clean sheets as well. Simon Davis going 2-2, but he's a City fan, so it may be slightly biased within that. He's not really, he's a City fan, but he's quite well, what's the word I'm looking for, balanced in terms of that. Jarvis, what say you?
Yeah, I don't think it will be a high-scoring game in a way. I don't see where our goals are coming from. Maybe a Mainu masterclass, or I hope Mason Mount starts tomorrow and he have a go in front of Casemiro, because I think Casemiro has been bad lately. My prediction is 1-1. Low-scoring game. I don't think it will be a lot of chances. So like a goal and maybe Mason Mount. Or this Ukraine center back with the long shot. He has some incredible long shots I've seen. So he has power in his right foot, I believe.
Well, Twillenberg's disagreeing with you completely. He's gone 6-1, but he hasn't said to which side. So it will be interesting to see where he's going with that. John Neville, what do you reckon?
I've gone for 2-2 draw. I think it'd be another one of those where I could see as I could maybe see someone equalising late on, whether it's us or Bournemouth. Not 100% sure, but I think it'll be might be another chaotic finish again, and it'll end up 2-2.
Just what we need. We don't have enough of that, have we? Andrew Wool, what do you reckon?
I was going to say, United's character is going to be definitely tested in the coming weeks, and we can't afford to drop any more points. I know very slim, tiny hopes of top 5, if that remains Champions League, and also Bournemouth could do with returning, winning ways as well, if they want to push to the top 7. So, yes, Bournemouth got the better of us last time at Old Trafford. So, you could argue there's very little to separate both teams. So, on paper, you would say a draw, but I'm going to back United all the way. And I think if we turn up and I know what United can do, then I'm going to go 3-1 to United.
Absolutely. Simon, I said you're very well balanced. I threw the joke in, and then I was very serious and said you're very well balanced when it comes to these things. So there we go. PJ saying 2-2, and Bestie, lovely to have you here. We're just finishing. You have to rewind it, mate, and have a sit and a watch and pretend that we're still there with you, because we are very nearly out of time this evening. Really, I just have time to say thank you. Thank you as ever to those of you in the chat. Always brilliant to hear what you've got to say. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, because that's really helpful. Brilliant, of course, to have you all with us. John, thank you very much for joining us. Do take care of yourself, sir. Any parting words you'd like to give to the masses?
Who may?
Or John, yeah.
Thanks for coming, everybody. We've been to have a good chat this evening, and like to see a lot of people in the comments as well. It's been really good.
Really has been, and thank you as well for retweeting a couple of things. If you get onto Twitter, if you're not already on there, get yourself on there, like and follow All for United. We had a few different things in there. We had all of Bruno Fernandes's, let me try putting that in English, Bruno Fernandes's 50 Premier League goals, from where he scored them from, loads of stats in there. Plus, we've brought back the one appearance club, and today we had Dylan Levitt being our one appearance guy, and he had a nice frozen background because, of course, Levitt go. I had to do it. So get in there, like it. If you like a few puns, I'll see if I can find you some more. But please do come and join us on that one. Andrew Wool, another guy who we get to see quite a lot of. Thank you very much for joining us as well. Any words you would like to say before we finish?
So thanks for having me back on, and say hopefully we'll see into United wins, Saturday and Sunday. Well, especially for the women's in the FA Cup semi-finals. So might be a good weekend this weekend. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers firmly crossed. Jarvis, always nice to see you as well. Can people see you anywhere else over the weekend?
Yeah, we'll do the match reaction tomorrow night on the MUFC Realist TV as usual, and United Wheel Therapy with Nuruddin and the gang. It will be interesting if we lose. And I would say big up to the chat. NT, John Hoffman, Simon Davis, PJ, Georgie Best, Walumba Piri, lots of familiar faces. Glad to have you here, guys, and brilliant comments contributing to the show.
Indeed. And Craig, as NT says here, good luck starting from Sunday onwards. I fully agree with that comment and endorse it. That is a view of All for United. But thank you for joining us. Give your podcast a little shout out. Where could people find you if they wanted to find out any more about Bournemouth?
Of course. So the podcast can be found on Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the normal places, as well as YouTube. Like I say, for our opposition preview show for this game, had a very special guest in Happy Mondays, Gaz Whelan. We've also had other guests. Harry Redknapp is a regular on our channel. Damon Minchella we had recently talking about Everton. Nick Owen. Also the Farms, Peter Hooton, and we do have another very, very special guest joining me on Monday. I can't say who it is, but a singer, big band in the 90s. So yeah, head over, please do subscribe. It does help us grow, and yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of content for you guys to enjoy.
Absolutely. And before anybody asks, no, it's not me. So don't be getting your hopes up. But there we go. I was a boy band member with my flowing locks back in the 90s. What a time to be alive that was. Awesome stuff. Right, it's been a pleasure. Superb as ever. Thank you very much, everybody. We will be back tomorrow night as ever for our review, where we'll either be crying into our beer or throwing it about all over the place celebrating. We shall soon find out. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.